Before the wall stood, a man stood for it. The emperor gets the credit. But one general did the impossible. History forgot him. Enemies feared him. His name was Meng Tian, the hammer of the Qin, the shield of the empire, the general who carved order out of a frontier that swallowed men whole. Before we continue, subscribe. It helps us keep history's greatest stories alive. Before the Great Wall took shape across the spine of northern China, the land itself was a battlefield. The Qin Empire was rising like a storm, swallowing rival states with iron laws and pitiless discipline. Armies marched, cities fell, and the dream of unifying China was no longer a myth but an expanding shadow. And behind that shadow stood generals who turned the emperor's ambition into reality. Among them, none stood taller than Meng Tian. He was born into a bloodline of war. The Meng family had produced generals for generations, men hardened by constant struggles between ancient kingdoms. Meng Tian inherited their discipline, but he added something else, an instinct for strategy that set him apart even in an age of brilliant tacticians. From a young age, he was known not just for his ability to command, but for a relentless commitment to order and precision. In the chaos of the warring states, he became a rare constant. The Qin court quickly recognized his genius. When Qin Shi Huang needed a commander whose loyalty was absolute and whose courage never faltered, Meng Tian was the answer. He rose through the ranks not through politics, but through competence sharpened in smoke and blood. To the emperor, he became more than a general, he became a weapon. And in time, a weapon was exactly what the northern frontier required, for the lands beyond the Yellow River were burning. The Xiongnu Confederation rode like ghosts over the grasslands, appearing without warning, striking with terrifying precision, and vanishing into the steppe before the Qin could respond. Farms were destroyed, villages emptied, and the northern territories bled with every passing season. The frontier groaned under the weight of fear. Something had to be done. And still, the raids continued. Recognizing that the crisis could collapse entire provinces, Qin Shi Huang turned to Meng Tian. The emperor entrusted him with an army so vast that it reshaped the landscape as it marched 300,000 soldiers, the largest force Qin had ever sent into the north. Every step of this army echoed with the promise of revenge, and every banner carried the weight of a nation's hope. Meng Tian rode at the front, calm, sharp-eyed, unyielding. The vast plains of Ordos stretched before him, a territory that had become a battlefield defined by speed and unpredictability. The Xiongnu knew the land, the rivers, the pathways through the grass. They relied on ambush attacks and swift retreats, drawing Chinese forces deeper into treacherous ground. But Meng Tian studied their movements, patterns, and rhythms. He understood that defeating them required not just strength, but patience. As the campaign began, the Qin forces encountered wave after wave of hit-and-run assaults. Xiongnu horsemen circled like vultures, testing the edges of the advancing army. Scouts disappeared. Supply lines were cut. Meng Tian responded with brutal efficiency, tightening formations, dispatching counter-raiders, fortifying temporary camps with rapid earthworks. Slowly, the rhythm of the frontier shifted. The Xiongnu found their tricks blunted by discipline they had never faced before. The first major clash erupted near the bend of the Yellow River, where the steppe met the river's twisting banks. Xiongnu cavalry charged with thunder speed, their arrows turning the sky black. But Meng Tian reacted instantly. He ordered his crossbow units forward, unleashing volleys with mechanical precision. Shield walls locked, spears braced, and the first wave of attackers shattered like water against rock. When the dust settled, the ground was littered with broken arrows and bodies, proof that Qin's northern hammer had arrived. The campaign pressed deeper into Xiongnu-held lands. Battles erupted across valleys and plains, sometimes lasting only moments, sometimes dragging through days of continuous fighting. the air filled with dust and screams. Horses collapsed from exhaustion. Soldiers fought through ambushes where survival depended on instinct alone. Yet through all of it, Meng Tian kept the army steady, crushing resistance bit by bit. The frontier held its breath. By summer's end, the Qin forces pushed into the heart of Ordos. Meng Tian's strategies turned the chaos of the north into a battleground he controlled. He cut off escape routes, burned enemy supply caches, and forced the Xiongnu into open conflict, something they had avoided for decades. Each victory carved away their confidence, driving them further from the lands they had once dominated with ease. Word spread across the frontier. The Qin were winning, but the northern campaign was more than battle. Sabotage and rebellion erupted behind the lines, fueled by fear and resistance among border tribes. Meng Tian confronted these threats with an iron hand, crushing uprisings before they spread. His soldiers built fortified outposts as they advanced, ensuring the land stayed secure even after the army moved on. Step by step, he restored stability to a region that had known none for generations. As the Xiongnu retreated beyond the northern deserts, the Qin soldiers looked out over the reclaimed territory. Smoke from spent battles drifted across the plains, and silence settled where a war had raged for months. Ordos belonged to Qin again. For the first time in memory, the frontier felt safe. And yet Meng Tian knew the danger would return. Victory alone was not enough. The Xiongnu could regroup, rearm, and ride south again. The northern border needed more than soldiers, it needed a barrier that could stop armies. The idea was not new. Old walls built by fallen states still lay scattered across the landscape, crumbling lines of earth and stone. But now, with the Qin unifying China, these broken remnants could be reforged into something greater. As Meng Tian surveyed the horizon, he understood the magnitude of the task awaiting him. Walls stretching across deserts, mountains, and forests. Watchtowers rising like teeth along the border. Fortresses linked by roads capable of supplying entire armies. This would not be a project of months or even years, it would reshape the very geography of China. The emperor demanded security. The frontier demanded strength. And Meng Tian, fresh from victory, was given the impossible. The enemies had been pushed back. Now came the wall that would hold them. The smoke of battle faded, but Meng Tian's work was only beginning. The frontier he had reclaimed needed more than garrisons and patrols, it needed permanence. The emperor ordered him to bind the northern border with a single, unbroken line of defense. And so Meng Tian turned from war to something almost as brutal, construction on a scale the world had never seen. From the deserts of Gansu to the mountains of Yan, the land trembled under the movement of workers, soldiers, engineers, and forced laborers. Tens of thousands were driven into the northern wilderness, where scorching summers burned the skin and winter winds could freeze a man in minutes. Meng Tian oversaw it all. He traveled from site to site, inspecting progress, tightening discipline, and ensuring the wall rose exactly as the emperor commanded. His presence alone could silence disputes and restore order to exhausted crews. The wall grew like a living thing, snaking across the horizon in layers of packed earth and timber. Watchtowers rose at regular intervals, their silhouettes cutting sharp angles against the sky. Signal fires were prepared. Fortresses took shape on ridges and mountain passes, anchoring the defensive line in stone. Roads followed the wall, binding every outpost together so armies could move faster than invaders. Day by day, the frontier transformed into a massive military machine, one built not just for defense, but for control. And still, he pushed forward. Even as construction intensified, the Xiongnu tested the Qin defenses. Small groups of raiders attacked supply columns, kidnapped workers, and attempted to burn unfinished sections of the wall. Meng Tian responded with the same precision he had shown in battle. He deployed scouts to monitor every movement on the steppe. He reinforced vulnerable sections with additional troops and ordered night patrols to eliminate infiltration. Under his command, the construction zones became as fortified as battlefields. But the wall was more than a physical project. It was political. The emperor's ambition loomed over every stone and every order. Qin Shi Huang expected the wall to symbolize his power, an unbreakable frontier for an unbreakable empire. And though Meng Tian's brilliance made the wall possible, he remained in the emperor's shadow. His victories belonged to the state, not to him. His innovations were credited to the throne. His sacrifices went unspoken. The burden never broke in, not yet. As the years passed, the wall stretched across the north like a scar carved by human hands. Workers died by the thousands, some from exhaustion, others from accidents, many from the brutal punishments imposed for disobedience. Legends whispered that their bodies were buried within the wall. The truth was harsher. Most were never found at all. Every section bore the cost of lives spent in service of imperial order. Meng Tian carried that weight silently. The frontier, however, held firm. Raids decreased. Xiongnu incursions became rare, frustrated by the wall of watchtowers, fortified passes, and mobile garrisons. Trade routes stabilized. Farms began to flourish again, for the first time in generations. The northern territories tasted peace. Much of that peace rested on Meng Tian's shoulders. Then, the emperor died. Qin Shi Huang's passing sent shockwaves through the empire he had carved with iron and fear. The court snarled with conspiracies. Ministers schemed. Princes maneuvered for power. And at the center of it all was a man named Zhao Gao, a eunuch whose ambitions were sharp enough to cut a dynasty apart. He manipulated the line of succession, placing the weak-minded second emperor, Hu high on the throne. Anyone loyal to the old order became a threat. Meng Tian had been one of Qin Shi Huang's most trusted commanders. His brother Meng Yi was a respected official. Both were obstacles to Zhao Gao's rise. And so the purge began. The orders reached the northern command like a blade wrapped in silk. Meng Tian was stripped of power, accused of treason, and commanded to take his own life. His soldiers, begged him to resist. Some urged him to march south and reclaim authority by force. Others fell to their knees, swearing they would die for him as they had fought for him. But Meng Tian understood the storm that had consumed the capital. Orders from the throne, however twisted, could not be defied without plunging the empire into civil war. And so he walked into the quiet of his final night, far from the emperor he had served, far from the wall he had built, far from the history he had shaped. He drank poison with the calm of a man who had given everything he had to a country that no longer remembered why it needed him. His death echoed through the garrisons like a wound. Soldiers wept. Officers smashed their weapons against the earth. For a moment, the frontier seemed to sag under the weight of what had been lost. The wall stood, but the empire began to crumble. With Meng Tian gone, discipline in the north collapsed. Rebellions erupted across the provinces. The Xiongnu surged forward, reclaiming lands Meng Tian had fought to protect. Zhao Gao and the new emperor proved incapable of maintaining the massive state Qin Shi Huang had built. Within a few years, the Qin dynasty, the greatest power China had ever known, fell apart like a crumbling tower. Yet the wall remained. Long after the Qin vanished, long after Zhao Gao was forgotten, long after dynasties rose and fell in endless cycles, the structure Meng Tian forged stood across the mountains and deserts. It survived storms, wars, invasions, and centuries of neglect. Travelers who reached its battlements saw only stone and earth, but behind every brick was the echo of a general whose vision outlived the empire that betrayed him. Dynasties fell, empires burned, and names were erased. But the wall endured, and so did the shadow of the man who built it. If you enjoyed it, please support this channel by liking and subscribing to the channel.